What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another weekly news video. We only have 2 or 3 things to talk to today. I am recording this a few days in advance because I have Christmas family commitments, but I thought it would be really good to talk to a couple of these things. In particular, a follow-up to Friday's video. We'll then quickly touch on some comments relating to this whole Dude Perfect partnership with Fanatics Live and how something went over my head a little bit with the targeting of gambling towards kids. I think that's something that needs to be broken down. And there's also some comments there from Geoff that I think need to be criticized a little bit more harshly than what is currently being. So we'll share my thoughts on that, and then we'll also talk to some backdoored cards from Exquisite relating specifically to a Kobe Bryant 1-of-1, which is a big bloody deal and something I want to unpack again, like I just mentioned. So we'll sort of kick things off by basically referencing my video from Friday, which is this one over here. This only dropped a few hours ago, as you can see, 5 hours, and I spoke about how there's a lot of hobby Kool-aid at the moment, and there sort of seems to be this really big narrative, this sentiment within the hobby with people, pushing down the current collectors. And by that, I mean, you've got collectors feeling like Fanatics and Tops are focusing in on the future customer and prioritizing that over the current customers. And when sort of things are popping up that these businesses are doing, you've got collectors sharing grievances or saying, well, I don't know if I like that. Is that beneficial for me? What is going on? You've basically got people with influence within this space saying, well, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Fanatics and Tops know what they're doing. This is for the betterment of the hobby. This is for the growth of the hobby. Just suck it up and deal with it, kind of thing. And that's what I essentially talked to within this video, but it goes back to that point of it very much feels like there's a sentiment of Fanatics and Tops looking after the future customer rather than the current one. And you've basically got current collectors feeling like they're being listened to, but they're not being heard. And that detailed breakdown happens within this video, so please do check it out. The one thing I do want to clarify is based on a comment from Neo Cards and Comics where he basically mentioned that I forgot to mention the buyback program about what Tops had done well for collectors in recent times. And yes, I completely agree. I should have mentioned that the buyback program is fantastic. It completely slipped my mind. But the general talking point of this video goes beyond that, right? Because it goes to the sentiment, it goes to the Kool-aid that the likes of these sponsored content creators, the people at the forefront of this industry are talking about when it comes to what's happening to the future of the hobby. It feels like they're sort of pushing collectors down to say, sort of shut up, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is going to make the hobby better. And it's like, well, we're sort of here. We made the hobby relevant. Can you please listen to us a little bit? So I go into that chat a lot more in this video, so please do check it out. But the reason, why I referenced this video again is because of some comments that went over my head when this news first dropped. I initially talked about Dude Perfect having 60 million subscribers and how people sort of got turned off because it didn't seem to be what they were interested in. And I spoke about how that's sort of okay because I'm all for businesses wanting to innovate and disrupt and all that kind of stuff. But what sort of went over my head was how so many people were supporting this decision purely because it meant it could get more kids involved. Because by all reports, these guys have a huge following with a younger audience. And now that I've had time to reflect post focusing in on the sentiment that I mentioned in the earlier video, right, I wanted to talk to you about collectors getting pushed down and all that kind of stuff. But now that's sort of left my brain, I can go back and look at the news on face value. And the fact that you've got people being so comfortable saying it's great for kids to get involved, and this is great news from Fanatics because it gets kids involved, is really concerning when you look at what Fanatics Live actually is. It's a breaking platform. It's getting kids excited about gambling. You've basically got people being comfortable that these people have been signed to get kids involved to then be exclusive breakers on Fanatics Live, to then get kids exposed to gambling. And I don't think that's okay at all. And it's something that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm really keen to sort of hear what you guys have to say as well. I know people will say, well, if kids want to participate in breaking, they can already do that sort of stuff. They can do it. They can bypass it. Who cares? Well, I care. And also the government and regulations care because those things exist to make sure minors can't get exposed to this kind of stuff, right? They can't be forced and exposed to gambling. There's a reason why laws exist. There's a reason why you need to be over 18 or over 21, depending on where you are within the world. It's not okay that this sort of stuff is happening, and I'm surprised so many people are actively supporting it. And if Fanatics did sign these guys with that intention, that's very disappointing to sort of see from them as well, because they, as the business, need to be that pillar of excellence, right? They need to be holding themselves accountable. They need to be making sure that stuff like this doesn't happen. So I'm not questioning them signing these guys. I'm questioning them signing these guys to get kids involved to use Fanatics Live, because that's one slippery slope down to the whole gambling and addict kind of thing. Now, again, people can do whatever they want, but laws and regulations exist for a reason. We need to remember that. And I'm not going to sit on the fence and be a guy that says, it's okay, who cares, kids can do this sort of stuff if they want to. Like that's not okay in my book. And I think it's just a very dangerous path to go down. But you've got people over here like 1 Million Cubs coming out and saying, well, we need more kids within the hobby. Fanatics should be doing things to get more kids. He's basically saying that's what the hobby wants. Fanatics then do that, and then the same people come out and say, well, why are Fanatics teaming up with them? They should be doing insert something tailored to their adult interest, which, is a very strange choice of, or curious choice of words, I should say, from this guy, because the fact that he used adult interest, breaking is an adult interest, right? I'm not okay with these guys being signed for kids, and I'm repeating myself now, but you guys get the general gist of what I'm saying. You've got, again, someone like Geoff, which is very disappointing to sort of see, saying this is a bad take. He then goes on to say, first, comments are often not indicative with real consumer collector response. Consumer collectors who are into this aren't as likely to comment as those who wish to rag on it. I've seen this play out myself many times over, which goes to the things I spoke about in Friday's video, right? Where you've essentially got, again, people at the forefront, people at the pinnacle of this, content creation space saying, who cares what you're saying? You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. The fact that you're pushing it down in this way feeds those discussion points we talked about in that video. But the second half of this comment is where, again, more, concern comes, because he essentially says, second, while Dude Perfect may not appeal to current collectors, they're one of the biggest content creator brands in the world. They have a massive fan following, especially with kids. If Fanatics wants to 10 times the hobby and introduce more kids to collecting, this will be wildly more effective than breaking with retired MLB players, which, this sort of point goes to the things I talked about on Friday. Again, I'm excited and I like the innovation disruption of bringing new things in, apologies. But the fact you've got someone like Geoff talking like that about it being a good thing for kids when kids are now being exposed to someone they like and someone they follow on social media, that they can maybe now be inclined to participate within group breaking or participate within gambling is not good at all. And it's just something that is very disappointing to come from him. Now, people will say that's right up his alley and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing I will say is that, Geoff seems to be quite critical and conscious of what he's talking about lately. When you go back to this time 12 months ago, he was very much emotionally reacting to sports card radio and all that sort of stuff and making really dumb decisions and doing the whole lawsuit thing and very clearly acting on his emotion. What he's sort of done in the following months since is he seems to be a lot more calculated. So for him to make a comment like that, not thinking it through, is very disappointing to sort of see, especially when he's going to have, his own card store. Now, I know I didn't talk to these points in my video on Friday, but you guys get where I'm coming from. It just seems so odd how there are so many people out there supporting this kind of decision and supporting that it's okay for Fanatics to sign these guys onto a platform to get kids involved, but that platform is a gambling platform. It just seems so odd to me. It seems so disgusting. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say on that, because if so many people are taking the same position, this is going to be great for kids and all that kind of stuff. I'm not okay with kids getting exposed to this kind of stuff. Now, I'll repeat myself. People will say, well, who cares? Kids will find ways to break if they want to, but as a business, Fanatics and Tops need to be doing better, right? And maybe there are other ways to sort of do that. And yes, they can restrict kids from being exposed, but maybe there's more unique ways to do that. I don't know what the answer is right now. Like, maybe don't sign people like this that have huge following with kids to go on a breaking platform. Now again, thinking out loud, could the same thing be said for when athletes are signed on to do breaks? Sure. So maybe I don't actually know what the answer is, but it's just one of those things where I feel like if this stuff is being talked about getting kids excited for the hobby and getting excited about collecting, we sort of need to separate that whole discussion from the whole Fanatics Live piece, because purely for the fact you've got so many people saying this is great for kids, but they're using a gambling platform. There's laws and regulations for a reason. I'm repeating myself now. It doesn't sit well with me at all, and I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say, because there are so many people that are basically saying this is fantastic, not thinking it through. Now, people will find ways to do things they shouldn't be doing and all that sort of stuff, but we need to be better, and we need to be better about communicating it as a hobby as well. And maybe I'm just another guy, yelling at kids on my lawn, like I said on Friday, or maybe like Neo called me in my comments today, dudes yelling at clouds, but this is not okay with me. Now, maybe I'm off base, but please share your thoughts down below. Now, you also had people like Sports Card Shop and a few others calling out the whole gambling underage thing and all that kind of stuff, which is full credit to them. And you sort of saw that on the actual original post from Collectibles Guru as well. But it seemed to be so many people saying this was great, and all the people clapping back, but the people pushing back were saying the same sort of thing. This is great for kids and all that sort of stuff. I don't think it is, but again, please share it down in the comments below. The last thing I want to quickly talk to today relates to more backdoored cards, actually, this time from Exquisite, this time from back in 03-04, and this time relating to a Kobe Bryant 1-of-1. So this was brought to my attention through Auburn35, who tagged me in a post on Twitter earlier today, and he says the following: on the topic of duplicates and backdoor copies, here's a fun one. There appears to be at least 3 copies of the Upper Deck Sports 2003-04 Exquisite Kobe Bryant Rainbow 1 of 1. Here's one of them, as you can sort of see over here, PSA 8.5. There's one in a PSA 8, and then one in a BGS 8.5 slab. Now, Auburn can only really confirm that there are in fact at least 2, because he can't tell whether these 2 PSA cards are identical or not. But what he can do is look at one of the PSA cards on the back and then also the BGS card on the back, and he confirmed that the holographic stickers are in different spots. They are in fact different cards, which is another clear-cut tell on how to tell if these things are duplicates or not. And he says he only has the back images of 2 of the 3 cards, but this highlights one of the ways to confirm the cards are in fact different copies. And this is just sort of interesting because it just goes to show that, you know, backdoor cards have been happening for a long time. We've talked about this a number of times on the channel, especially, you know, from the 90s, how this stuff happened a lot. But this is concerning for a specific reason, that you've got people like Adam Gray, who goes by the 27 guy on Twitter, the real 27 guy on Instagram, who is a big guy when it comes to collecting things like Eminence, Flawless, Exquisite in particular. And he was shocked to see this. And that's what's worrying here, right? The fact that you've got someone who is so in the detail for a product, not knowing that a duplicate exists. And then that tells me, well, if somebody like him, who is an expert with this sort of stuff, not knowing about it, what does that mean for all the other cards in there? How many others are out there that we don't actually know about? How many of these cards that are incredibly expensive, you know, 6-figure cards and all that sort of stuff, are owned by people, you know, from back then that were backdoored, that actually don't actually know they're duplicates because things haven't surfaced yet? That's very, very concerning in my opinion, and I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say. But to go through Adam's comment, he says, I was discussing this with a few other collectors last night. I wasn't aware of any unnumbered or duplicate copies from 03 until last night. This is a major bummer. You then have Auburn35 replying, who says, well, no idea about the third, but Spinotron mentioned he was aware of the history on the BGS copy. Spinotron is a big Kobe collector. He has some pretty freaking amazing cards. Please do check it out on Instagram. He owns one of them, and he gave this response where he says, probably one is for advertising purpose. Mine is from a breaker who broke a ton of Exquisite back in the day from East Coast. Jim's copy was from an eBay seller who claims to have got it from an industry connection. Apologies for the poor English. He's not a native English speaker, so cut him some slack. He says, who claims to have got it from an industry connection, wink wink, whose communication I still have kept in my email inbox. So I tend to believe mine is a real one. Jim's is for advertising and backdoored out. Not because I own this, but both look identical. Owning either is a blessing. Even an advertising copy with Jim's gracing from his legendary PC, it still means a lot and is very cool to own, which is, you know, sort of very, you know, fair to say. And Adam then goes on to say that Spinotron was one of the people he talked to. You then have Auburn35 replying again, basically saying he reached out to Carvin to try and understand who or how this happened, how duplicates occurred. Carvin being someone I had on the live stream a few weeks back and someone who helped design and implement the Exquisite product. He basically says he's sure only one was packed out and had some ideas on how the others got out, but would prefer to share those with the card owners instead. But this is just a very interesting situation, because it goes to what I literally just talked a bit earlier about a card like this having so many experts out there that know the detail of this product that can still be shocked literally 20 years later that duplicates are showing up. And that should concern a lot of people. And some people will say, well, Daniel, this has been happening since, you know, the 90s. What's the big deal when Topps and Fanatics do it today? What's the big deal when Panini do it today? Well, in my opinion, the big deal is the fact that cards are a lot more valuable these days, and things that seem to be happening a lot more consistently and pervasively, right? You saw that whole DFW card shark stuff that we spoke about on Monday, Tuesday this week, where the volume was insane, right? And all those in aggregate across, you know, all the years of that guy selling backdoored cards would add up to a lot more money than the cards being backdoored in the past. And whilst, yes, the cards being backdoored in the past are probably worth a lot more than the cards being backdoored today, but in aggregate at time of release, the problem on hand is a lot bigger right now than it was back then, purely because stuff was worth so much more money and things seem to be getting backdoored in crazy volumes. So I'll probably talk to that whole Kobe card in another video at some point next week. I want to get a bit more information, but like always, I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say on this topic, as well as anything else we discuss, because I think it's a very wild situation. So as always, thank you for watching. Share your thoughts down in the comments below, and Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.